I think Jake Paul is crazy enough to fight Anthony Joshua because the money would be absolutely obscene. It's a catastrophic mismatch that people would tune in to watch because it would lead to the end of Jake Paul.
Fans won't like this, by the way.
I don't like it.
No, I don't like it either. But the way that Joshua see it is as a money grab. He'll see it as an easy money grab. But at this stage of his career, is it a fight he should be taking? Nah.
The guy who finally put an end to this Jake Paul thing, right? If he goes out there and puts Jake Paul in the dirt, he's going to be heralded. He's going to be a hero.
Eddie Hearn didn't mince words when reacting to Jake Paul's interest in fighting Anthony Joshua. The Matchroom promoter called it the biggest mistake of Paul's career, warning that this matchup goes far beyond a typical payday or Netflix spectacle. According to Hearn, stepping into the ring with a former unified heavyweight champion isn't entertainment. It's a potential career ender. He stresses that Joshua's power, experience, and overwhelming physicality would leave Paul completely outmatched, blurring the line between a fun crossover bout and a serious threat to Paul's boxing future.
Jake Paul, Anthony Joshua, 50-50 fight. What do you make of that?
Yeah, I just said in another interview, great if it is. I mean, if it is, then you've got no problem seeing it. But when AJ, I mean, decapitates a strong word, but you know, when he renders Jake Paul unconscious like he did to Francis Ngannou, don't then say, oh well, it was Jake Paul. Do you know what I mean? I mean, when AJ beat Francis Ngannou, Ngannou just had a fight that could have gone either way with Tyson Fury. Then AJ poleaxed him and everyone just said he's just an MMA fighter. Do you know what I mean? Jake Paul's not Francis Ngannou. But, as I said before, if you want to see Jake Paul exit the boxing world...
Reports indicate that Jake Paul is nearing the final stages of negotiations for a heavyweight showdown with Anthony Joshua, expected to take place next month in Miami and stream globally on Netflix. The bout would represent a massive leap for Paul, whose previous opponents have not matched Joshua's elite pedigree. Joshua, a former two-time unified heavyweight champion, last competed in September 2024. Eddie Hearn confirmed that discussions are underway, explaining that while the matchup had originally been considered for a later date, the cancellation of Paul's fight with Gervonta "Tank" Davis may accelerate the timeline. He noted, however, that talks remain exploratory and no deal has been finalized. Hearn added that Joshua's true focus remains a shot at the world heavyweight title or a potential clash with Tyson Fury. While a fight with Paul is possible, he emphasized that it is not the team's main priority, as their goal is to rebuild Joshua's path back to championship contention rather than simply create a spectacle.
With myself and Nikisa, I think Jake and AJ have spoke as well. You know, from our point of view, if we're going to have a run-out fight, why not run out against Jake Paul, you know, for a lot of money? So there's ongoing conversations there. I can't tell you it's close. I can't tell you we've seen a contract. But if he genuinely wants to fight Anthony Joshua, I don't see why we wouldn't have a chance to do that fight. But, you know, our focus is on really a charge for the World Heavyweight Championship and a charge at Tyson Fury. We can't control that either. So, like I said, that's why I said to you,
Hearn has further elaborated on the concerns about a potential clash between Jake Paul and Anthony Joshua, insisting the matchup will be far more serious than a mere spectacle. He emphasized the severe imbalance between the two, citing the enormous differences in size, experience, and punching power. According to Hearn, the danger isn't hypothetical. It's very real. He warned that stepping in with Joshua could seriously damage Paul's career, potentially even ending it. In Hearn's view, the risks to Paul's health and long-term standing in the sport are so significant that the commercial appeal of the fight must be weighed with extreme caution.
Hey, James, quickly, I watched Jake Paul the weekend. I feel a bit dirty saying that because I'm not a fan of his, but he did say after the fight that he's sort of having DMs or he's dropping text messages to AJ. They're having a chat about a potential fight. What's your view on that, Eddie?
Well, look, he's calling out Gervonta Davis, who is a 135-pound lightweight, and he's calling out Anthony Joshua, that's a heavyweight monster. I think Jake Paul is crazy enough to fight Anthony Joshua because the money would be absolutely obscene. It's a catastrophic mismatch that people would tune in to watch because it would lead to the end of Jake Paul. Hopefully not literally, but it's that dangerous that, you know, it's a fight that I don't think should really happen, if I'm honest. I would say about Jake Paul, and I've said this in a couple of interviews today, I do think you start after giving him a margin of respect. You know, I think this guy is going through the motions. He's putting the hard spars in. He just went 10 rounds with, yes, a washed-up fighter, but a former world champion that did train for that fight. But they're very clever in terms of the opponents that they pick. They're not going to gamble unless the money's out of control. And it wouldn't surprise me if Jake Paul, wanted to move forward with an Anthony Joshua fight. Honestly, AJ's coming tonight. He's not exactly looking at Jake Paul going, oh, that's my dream opponent. No. Would he go in there and give him a hiding for, a massive chunk of money? Probably, I'd be saying.
Mike Coppinger of the Ring has raised significant concerns about the proposed Jake Paul versus Anthony Joshua matchup, suggesting that Paul is motivated more by the massive payday than the sporting challenge. Coppinger reports that negotiations are well advanced, but still depend on key broadcast and sanctioning agreements. He highlighted the enormous gap in size, power, and experience between the two fighters, noting that the mismatch introduces genuine safety risk for Paul. Although the commercial appeal could push the fight forward, Coppinger's reporting stresses that the threat to Paul's credibility and potentially his health should not be overlooked. It also remains unclear whether the bout will be sanctioned as a professional contest or staged as an exhibition. No official terms have been released, leaving open questions regarding the rules, regulatory oversight, and whether the fight would count toward either man's official record.
Breaking story on Ring Magazine, Anthony Joshua and Jake Paul are finalising a deal for a heavyweight fight on Netflix in December in Miami. Sources tell the Ring Magazine's Mike Coppinger. What do you make of that?
Well, Anthony Joshua is talking about wanting warm-up fights before going into bigger fights, but look, it's prize fighting at the end of the day, and the way that Joshua will see it, and Matchroom and all the team, the fans won't like this, by the way. But
I don't like it
either. I don't like it either. But the way that Joshua will see it is as a money grab. He'll see it as an easy money grab, but at this stage of his career, is it a fight he should be taking? Nah, definitely not.
Yeah, but it shouldn't be licensed because it's a really dangerous fight.
Do we know if it's an exhibition or a real fight?
We don't know yet, but I don't think they should be allowing Anthony Joshua in a ring with Jake Paul. It's dangerous for him.
It can't be a real fight, because if it's a real fight, Anthony Joshua would take Jake Paul's head clean off. So it can't be a real fight.
Well, that's what I'm worried about.
Yeah,
I don't want to see a man decapitated in Miami in a ring in December.
Listen, and that's what will happen. So,
however, many seasoned boxing figures have openly condemned the idea. Veteran heavyweight Derek Chisora has sharply criticized the possibility of Jake Paul receiving a WBC ranking, calling it a blatant insult to the sport. Chisora argues that granting Paul such recognition undermines the integrity of boxing and disrespects fighters who have spent years earning their place through legitimate competition.
WBC have said they're going to give a cruiserweight ranking to the winner of this fight. Do you think they deserve one?
No, I don't think so. I don't know why. It's hard enough for real athletes, for real boxers, to gain those rankings, and then suddenly this Solomon Sousa decides to give double ranking because he's getting some greens in his, in his back pocket. No,
Boxing legend Roy Jones Jr. offered an unexpected angle on the potential matchup. While he acknowledged that the fight could happen if Anthony Joshua genuinely wanted it, he emphasized that it must make sense for Joshua both competitively and financially. Jones underscored Joshua's status as a legitimate former world champion and didn't shy away from making his point clear. Did you see what Anthony Joshua did to Francis Ngannou? The same thing would happen to Jake Paul. If you think someone who isn't a full-time boxer can beat Anthony Joshua, you're crazy.
I want to change subjects just a little bit here. And Anthony Joshua, there's rumours circulating he could be fighting Jake Paul next. One, do you think it's good for boxing? And two, do you think the fight will happen?
I think it's great for boxing. I think the fight will happen. AJ is 1-0 against these guys that come in to these boxing careers late. So why not? He's a perfect guy to take him out, too. He took Ngannou out. Why would he not take Jake Paul out? And for him, he'd probably make more money fighting Jake Paul than he will fight anybody else that he can fight right now. So why would he not do it? I mean, not that he needs the money right now anyway, but if he's going to do something, if you want to get a good win to put him back on the scene, that's a perfect win. You get a lot of money doing it.
Will Jake Paul become a world champion?
No.
Why?
I think if they make him fight tough opponents, guys with experience, those guys will beat him. Now, if you catch somebody like myself at the end of their career, or somebody like Tyson, he caught at the end of their career, the chances are much higher because now it becomes more of a 50-50. You got a guy who's better than him but the age factor. You understand me? And that's the only way to balance it for him to make it a 50-50 fight. Somebody who's on his level at the same age, those guys have too much experience. You understand me? So he's not going to beat those guys. But you find a guy who is past his prime, who has the mentality further than his, but past their prime, it kind of evens the stakes.
Leon Edwards has also shared his thoughts on the potential Jake Paul-Anthony Joshua bout, making it clear he sides firmly with Joshua. In comments reported by MMA Fighting, Edwards suggested the matchup is overwhelmingly in Joshua's favor, noting that Paul will be taking an enormous leap in competition. Though the fight is still speculative and far from confirmed, Edwards' perspective adds to the growing sentiment that the pairing is a clear mismatch, given the vast differences in experience and standing within the boxing world.
You've seen this fight's in the works, Anthony Joshua versus Jake Paul. As a Brit, how do you evaluate?
I've just seen that. Someone just told me about that. That's mad. Fair play to Jake Paul, first of all, for taking it. But if AJ doesn't knock him out in like 1-2 rounds, then I feel like the fight must be fixed or something, because I'm going to Anthony Joshua, obviously, for the KO. So yeah, when is it, you know?
It's going to be next month they're working towards.
Oh, yeah, sick. Yeah, I'm going AJ for the win.
Cheers.
Stephen A. Smith has frequently criticized Jake Paul for choosing opponents he labels as non-boxers or fighters past their prime. In response, Paul defended his record, pointing out that he attempted to arrange a fight with Tommy Fury, but Fury declined. This exchange highlights a key aspect of Paul's boxing journey. While he has claimed victories over former MMA fighters and experienced boxers, he has yet to consistently overcome active, rising boxing talents. His February 2023 loss to Tommy Fury remains one of the few instances where he faced a current boxer in their prime.
Beating up on dudes who don't box. They're not boxers.
I was on Disney Channel while these guys were winning UFC championships.
Okay.
You know, I was playing with Mickey Mouse while these guys were throwing arm bars and winning UFC championships. Everyone's, analyzing my career, critiquing it, paying attention to it from day one, but you can't tell me who was Mike Tyson's first fight. You can't tell me who Muhammad Ali, who was his fourth fight. No one knows, but everyone's seen all of my fights. I tried to fight Tommy Fury. Yeah, I tried to fight Tommy Fury, and he backed out due to a rib injury. Undefeated, young prospect. He comes from the Fury family. His brother's the heavyweight champion of the world.
Smith has openly criticized Jake Paul for choosing to fight boxing legend Mike Tyson. Smith argues that if Paul is serious about boxing, he should compete against opponents of his age and caliber rather than calling out seasoned veterans like Anthony Joshua, who possess significantly more experience. Smith's critique centers on the belief that for Paul to gain legitimacy in the boxing world, he must face opponents who are active and comparable in skill and experience.
At this particular moment in time. Now, I'll give Jake Paul credit for this. At least he's in the ring with a boxer. But 57 years old is 57 years old. And 57 years old and formally walking into a UFC fight as an audience member, as a patron with a cane, it's hard to me believe a year later that you're going to be in any condition to really, really fight. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't know. And if you're Jake Paul, here's what I want to say to you. It's Mike Tyson, that's fine. It's a money fight, I get you, and you want to make money. But at some point in time, if you keep telling us that you're taking boxing seriously and you want to be recognized as a big-time boxer / fighter, you're going to have to fight somebody closer to your age, who is a contender at the very least in the sport and who lives with it every single day. Could you please get in the ring with somebody? Pretty please, with sugar on top. I'm interested.
What did you think about the fight, Jake Paul?
I hate it. And Jake Paul's starting to piss me off. Mike Tyson is 57 years old, man. Jake Paul been training with professional boxing trainers for years. He takes the sport very seriously.
Thank you. So let me ask you, that's the question I have, because great kid, great businessman, by the way, amazing. And I know how he does all this, the character and the persona. We keep saying that he doesn't want to be a boxer. He's not a boxer. But then
Jake Paul is a boxer.
Yeah, exactly.
That's my point.
Exactly. He's a boxer.
He can fight. I respect it. So go in there against fighters. You should be climbing the ladder towards those other fighters and taking the sport seriously to the point where you're fighting actual boxers. Now he decides to fight a fighter, a real fighter, which is Tyson. But Tyson is 30 years older. Stop this nonsense of going against dudes that either ain't boxing or is 25 years removed from the sport.
In contrast, Tyson Fury has openly backed Jake Paul's chances, boldly claiming he would even wager £1 million on a Paul knockout against Anthony Joshua. Speaking with Ring Magazine ahead of the Usyk Du Bois rematch at Wembley Stadium, Fury stated that he believes Paul has the power to stop Joshua. He highlighted Paul's more muscular, heavyweight-ready physique and praised his fearless approach to challenging opponents across different weight divisions. Fury's confident endorsement underscores his view that Paul could pull off a shocking knockout in a potential clash with a former unified heavyweight champion.
Talk about possibly Joshua using Jake Paul as a tune-up to fight you. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't know about tune-up. I think Jake Paul knocks him out.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Why so? What impresses you about Jake Paul?
I just think Jake Paul would knock AJ out. I think AJ's a spent force, and I think Jake Paul's on the rise. And I like his new heavyweight look. Bit chubby, bit bulky. Getting there. That's protected. And he just done a great job over the aging Chavez Jr., who was a middleweight, but still.
Sure.
Yeah. I like how Jake Paul calls out the full spectrum from featherweight to heavyweight. Do you know what I mean? Who did he call out? Tank Williams and Joshua. That's just crazy. That's what you call Richter scale.
While many critics see a potential Jake Paul-Anthony Joshua fight as a risk to Joshua's legacy, others argue that Paul has earned a reputation for producing high-profile, attention-grabbing spectacles. His bouts consistently draw massive audiences and extensive media coverage, introducing new fans to boxing who might not otherwise follow the sport. Skeptics point to the mismatch and potential reputational damage for a former world champion like Joshua, but supporters highlight the commercial and promotional benefits, noting that Paul's ability to generate buzz could boost interest in boxing on a broader scale.
Think whatever you want of Jake Paul, but I have to respect what he's trying to do here, and I respect the spectacle that this could potentially be and what an attraction it could possibly be on the combined global stardom of Jake Paul and Anthony Joshua. I'm very interested in it, and I think a lot of people will be tuning in to see him get his clock cleaned.
All right, I have found playable odds.
Okay.
I think that's. Fight. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Pizzi.
Go, Pizzi.
Oh, sorry. I think I'm with Rick in terms of how I'd see this fight going. I think it's not a contest at all, but that's where the jeopardy exists if this was to happen for Anthony Joshua. If you go into this fight and he can somehow go late into this fight with you even, I think that's where you get into the territory of tarnishing legacies like Gareth A. Davies said. And as Gareth said as well, if this fight's made, are you honestly not expecting to see that headline on TalkSport immediately? Like, that is straight away where they're going to go with this. But again, it's going to stir the pot. It's going to have everyone talking about it. It's the type of thing that everyone will have an opinion on. And that's, again, what we've seen with all Jake Paul's fights. Like, people can say, oh, I don't care about this. He has everyone talking. And the Tyson fight proved he can get eyeballs. I think this will work in the same way. But I do believe that the jeopardy exists for Anthony Joshua by not performing the way he did against Francis Ngannou.
Jake Paul is confident that a fight with Anthony Joshua could revitalize boxing. He believed the matchup would inject fresh energy, attract new fans, and capture global attention. Paul describes himself as a breath of fresh air in the sport, claiming his mainstream appeal can bring younger audiences who might not typically follow traditional boxing. He stresses that boxing needs reinvigoration, and his presence could bridge the gap between mainstream entertainment and the sport's established fan base. However, many in the boxing community and among fans view Paul's challenge as unrealistic and overly ambitious given Joshua's experience and status.
You'll respond to me as I tweeted my thoughts about delusion, which again, I think is more about what Jake said about Anthony Joshua and what he'll do to him. That was the more delusional aspect of this. Amanda Serrano said, at Jake Paul is the truth. Funny, they say he's a fraud for wanting easy fights. Then he asked for the toughest fights ever, and they say he's nuts. Listen, he was scheduled to fight Canelo Gervonta, and now he's calling out Joshua. Come on, who else is doing this? Oh, crap, on second thought, he is out of his freaking mind. You're right. That was more of just Amanda backing her guy, you know what I'm saying, the co-founder of MVP and someone that she really respects in Jake. But in the middle there, I don't know if she would know or, whatever, but she essentially says that Jake was scheduled to fight Gervonta Davis, and she's not the only one saying that. Dan Rafael